Hi and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things Done podcast from Vital Learning. I am, as always, Morten and as always, I'm here with my good friend and colleague Lars Henriksen. And that was a little for those of those of our listeners who think it is cute with some Nordic singing voices. I don't know. Okay. Hi Lars. Привет.
Hi Morten. Maybe that will happen for me as well, since I have been in Norway for almost 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that. So maybe that'll happen for me as well. Good to see you again. Good to be with our listeners and viewers out there. We always start off with a quick reminder of the purpose of the podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTDers. We hope that today's episode supports you in that. If you are new to GTD, we always recommend you go back and listen to episodes 1 through 6 to get an introduction to the basics of GTD, the 5 steps. Find the audio version and listen through that. Today's episode number is number 133, and today's episode is about another listener questions. So it's actually number 19 of those. I just checked.
Okay, cool. Well, listener questions are always really good for us because it kind of triggers us to look at GTD again. So keep them coming. And
Yes.
I am triggered by them because then I have to really think through the methodology again, which is good for me and hopefully good for you, the listeners.
Yeah,
so, thank you.
helping us stay on our toes as well. So thank you for those.
Yes, no. And regarding staying on our toes, we have been talking about. We should say something about that just happened. The GTD Masterclass retreat in Norway, in Losby Manor, and
Indeed.
it's been a week and a half or something since we came out of that. What is your now kind of not first reaction but second reaction to this?
So that's I came to Norway 2 weeks ago today, actually, as of this recording, and then we had a fantastic masterclass retreat in Norway, and then subsequently I spent some time cross-country skiing in Norway in minus 20 degrees. So that part was
your inner Viking
also
came
an
out.
Experience. Yes, exactly. No, the masterclass retreat was fantastic. It's it's special, just bringing a group of GTDers together. Really interesting, special people, and the special atmosphere in Norway, and David and Catherine were there, and so many good thoughts and deep thoughts, which is, of course, what we were aiming for with the whole thing, and focusing on the higher horizons there. So kind of like for those who have been at the summer camp, it's somewhat related to that sort of group feeling, just even more intense, I would say, with this smaller group. And that's it was special, some special days, and I think that's sort of my initial reaction when I think back. What about you?
No, I have the same reaction. I think it might be good for those of our listeners who don't know what the Getting Things Done Masterclass Retreat is, to say a little about the format. It is it's over 3 days. It starts 2:00 and ends 2:00 with a full day in the middle, and there is. The last time now was with Catherine Allen, David Allen, Lars, and me as the training resources and the coaches, and there were 12 participants, and we were in a manor in Norway called Losby. It's in the middle of the forest, and it's winter, and it's snow, and it's beautiful. And I think it's far from everything, so you can't just wander off, go shopping, because you're there for this. In a historical, the manor is from the mid part of the 18th century, so it's quite a few years old, and it is a place where you can think about life, the universe, and everything, and try to capture that. And that's why we try what we try to facilitate with group sessions, and then individual coaching and group coaching. So breaks, and you hang out with your peers there, the 11 others. And this time, what I think was little special. And I talked to some of the participants after, and they say the same thing, is that what happened was that there was an instant trust when we came there. So people opened up their inner thoughts about life, the universe, and everything, and did not hold back. Most of them, at least, I think. It seemed to be all, but we can't know what's going on inside someone's brain. But it was really good, and it was and some of the energy that comes in the room, after one of these people, you can see people are walking around smiling and energetic, and they feel that they are now more in contact with what they want to do, with their life, universe, and everything. So to be able to think about, and it is a real treat and a luxury to have 3 days where you just think about, who am I? Who do I want to be? What's my purpose? What kind of life do I want to live? And so if that resonates, there is a link in the show notes. You can see the next event is in Denmark in September. So you might want to check that out if you want. So
I promise you it will be warmer than -20. So
yeah, well, it wasn't -20 when it was minus. Well, it's in Celsius. It was minus maybe 5, 6, 7 when we were in Losby. So your skiing trip with the deep cold, but it is cold. Yes, if you're not. Listeners' questions.
Yeah, let's do it. It's been a while, so let's jump right in. The first one is actually, I think, an old one that I noted in our listener question sheet, which was a comment from Evelien, I think, on my YouTube channel, because we referenced, I think, sometime last year maybe, where we were talking about the checklist, and I was really excited about the different daily uses that I was now having. We're all familiar, at least the people that are familiar with GTD know the weekly review checklist as sort of a standard tool in the GTD toolbox. But this sort of daily checklist thing was not necessarily something that everyone had picked up, myself included. So I've used it a bit on and off, and we had spoken about it there. And she asked if we could sort of give us an update on how we use these daily checklists. So how do you use it, if at all?
Well, I don't use a daily checklist, but I used to. And I teach people how to use them, because they're very beneficial, especially when you try to establish your GTD routines. Because as many people who try GTD, and I'm sure quite a few of them are our listeners, they struggle to, when you have an idea of what you want to, learn and how to handle GTD, it is an uphill battle against yourself, because you don't have the habits there yet. So when the habits are forming, the checklist could be very beneficial. And I recommend people having a morning checklist, so they start in the right end of things. What is your, and I can go into depths in a few minutes. I just want to hear, have you heard any of your coaching clients or anyone in your community that use checklists, Lars? How did they use it?
Yeah, so I often bring it up as well in coachings, and when we talk to people and share some of the approaches that you might want to start your day off with to make sure that you align yourself on where you want to go for that day. I think we also now, in the GTD training with the Crucial Learning, the version that we have now, we also talk about how to start out your day. So not getting sucked into email, for example, which I think is happens to other people, of course, never any of us or you guys listening. No, starting off with the calendar and the list, and orienting yourself from that before taking in any new inputs, such as email. And that sort of, I think, was part of the trigger for me to get back into having this daily routine on how to start the day, what do I want to see, what I want to pick out and work from, and so I definitely still use it and see the people benefit from this as well. Perhaps we want to start with your sort of generic or overall recommendations, and then I can dive into what I use today if you're not using anything anymore.
I can. What I would recommend for someone to do this is to have it in the calendar, and the reason being is that if you use GTD and you follow GTD, you know that the calendar is the only dictator in your life, which is it will tell you what you've decided to do and that you decided to honor. That's the only app that is supposed to yell at you, saying that now you have to get up because you are on going into a meeting with you or someone else. So if you use that, then the part of your calendar routine will be to check your calendar in the morning, and the first thing that should show up there could be your GTD morning routine checklist, and inside the details of the calendar event could, for example, be and I'm so easy. So make me smile in the morning. Make me do something easy to get myself going. So what I would recommend people to put there, grab a coffee. That's the first on the checklist, and I'm not saying, grab a coffee. That's easy. I can grab a coffee, and boom, I'm started already. I'm on the roll. So the second is to do a calendar reflection. I call it reflection because it is. Don't just check your calendar. And with that, I mean, look for today and look tomorrow would be, but reflect on each item, see if something shows up. Inevitably, you will find something going, oops, I forgot that I have to prepare for this meeting. I haven't. And so you might want to make, block out some time to do that if you don't have. So like last touches on the calendar might be good. Calendar reflection. And with reflection, look at every item and think a little about what is this meeting about? Am I going to say something here? What is my role in this meeting? Do I need to prepare something, etc.? That might be good. So, and then secondly, look at your lists. And for some people who use like Microsoft To Do, it might be beneficial to then either to go into your next actions lists and look at your desired outcomes and see if the day in the calendar looks so that you can fill it with some of your next actions, maybe even work on some desired outcomes. You might want to highlight them in My Day. So that My Day list is what you look at throughout the day. And then you don't have to look at everything you're not doing because you already decided these are probably the top 3, 4, 5 things I would like to do today if my day don't explode. And at some point I would recommend people to just write your head empty. That can be in the beginning after the coffee. But at some point when you start opening your list manager, you'll probably see tasks or your inbox where you have all your next actions, and then look at the inboxes, emails and tasks inbox, and decide, clarify and organize what's happened, and then start work after that. Any comments, Lars? Does it sound like yours?
No, that absolutely makes sense. That is much of the basis that I would focus on as well. Really making sure that we have that good overview, perhaps picking out some things. I think for many people that makes sense, depending on how stable their workday is, I should say. If things blow up or if they tend to blow up, then don't overcommit. That's certainly been one of the helpful things for me to limit myself, because I'm such an optimist that I'll put 10 things on my list and then I'll perhaps I'll get 5 done, and 5 might actually be really good. But if I put 10 on my list, then I'll feel bad for only, doing 5 out of the 10.
Yeah.
So
that never
taking
happened
that
to
number
me.
down. Exactly. So to bring that number down, it's also one of the ebooks from Crucial Learning that we also use here in Denmark, with one of the recommendations from Justin Hale being that, stop putting 10 things on there, put 3 things on there, just pick out 3. It's that was certainly helpful for me, because again, these lists can be long, and long lists don't work well for me. So
Yeah.
if I can only choose from 3, that's great. So yeah, no, I certainly recognize that.
One of the things that I've been talking to my coaching clients about is that imagine your list system is like a menu. And if you walk into a restaurant, you're not obligated to eat all the dishes on the menu. Neither do you need to do everything that's on your task list when you look at it. But for many, it helps to limit the number of things you see that you've decided to do today, because then it's already pre-decided, and you know that when you have 1 hour in between 2 meetings, and you start on the one on the top of my day, this is my short list for what I need to do today. If it's 3, 5, 10, 15, I don't know. But as I would recommend that, as you do, a number that is possible to get through. And then make sure that it makes it easier for you to actually feel that mastery. Because you want to go home at the end of the day and make this pat your shoulder and saying, well done, you did a good job today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
no, I definitely recognize that. And if I look at my checklist that I used to use before, it's much of that as well. A quick checklist on getting that coffee. I have a playlist, a shortcut on my system that starts to play some music and then sets the lights, opening the windows for 10 minutes to get some fresh air in through the house, and then do that review, just exactly as you described, reviewing your calendar, next actions, anything that I have due in my next actions list or tickler file or something like that, due in our CRM system, and anything on the communications plan that I want to post today to the different channels. That was what I used earlier now, and now it's sort of switched to the custom system that I'm playing around with building now. So it sort of has a whole workflow that you go through, but much of it is the same. Start music, get coffee, fresh air. I have a mind sweep that I have built in with some nice music and some keywords to see if there's anything I need to capture that I haven't already captured.
Cool.
I do the calendar review, just as you said. I've added a small button next to each of them saying add preparation, so I can easily block that time in my calendar or make it surface quickly for me, so I know that I need to get to that rather quickly. I have played around with having sort of these small AIs come up with summaries for the day, which has actually been really helpful. Also, again, to adjusting your standards, which there's some fun things happening with all this AI stuff. But one of them is that, it helps for me to have, in quotes, someone else tell me that my calendar is really full. So actually don't put 5 things on your list, just put 1 thing on your list, right? I should be able to make that decision. But it's nice to have someone else say it. Actually, I just,
your AI overlord.
Yes, exactly. And just to make this even more meta and more crazy, you and I are both playing around with AI versions of ourselves, and I've just included AI Lars in my system. So I will be commenting on my own system as we go forward. So there may be some psychological effects that you'll start to hear in future episodes. But
probably. But what the fun thing here now is that because as a coach and a trainer, you are training people in what in GTD you have some it is a framework, but within the framework there is also, of course, flexibility, but there are some pillars you should not touch, because if you touch them, your system will work suboptimally. But both you and I know that sometimes it is not exactly what we do ourselves. Sometimes you let your system go and you let yourself go a little, maybe, I don't know, and then you have to rein yourself in. But it is but that goes to your point with what I call the AI overload. Someone seeing you and telling you, Lars, you have a little too much on your calendar today. Do you have the room to breathe? And then, because you should be able to say that to yourself, you should be able to self-coach each other but
yeah.
not so much.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then I go through the list, picking out, I was starring things in my system, but that's the same as you would in Microsoft To Do, for example. I get some different agent inputs. We can talk about that at another time. And then I have a reminder to see if I want to, is there some kind of yoga or meditation or running that I could fit in today? Because I try to fit that in. Again, that is more an aspiration than what actually happens on a daily basis. But it's nice to be reminded of. And the last reminder is to eat that frog. So as much as I agree with you that it's nice to have a simple way to start the day and check some things off, and I can get that coffee, I also know that I have a tendency to just pick the easier task. If I have flagged 5, then I'll pick the easier one, and then we have a meeting, and then it's lunch, and
Lars.
then it's the big one, the hairy ones that are still there on the list, and then I'll have to push them for tomorrow. So just to make it easier for myself, I'll start with the most scary one if I want to pick, or I have a simple view that just hides all the tasks and just shows one task, and that's it. That's what you get to choose from, Lars. Send that email to to the trainer we just certified. That's email number 6. That's the one on my screen that I'm seeing now.
Yeah.
That is what I'll do once we're done if I want to pick something from my list. So I don't even have to choose.
No, well. And I think that, and for those of you, I'm sure there's listeners who is asking themselves, what is he talking about now? AI and, his list system. Lars has been up late coding. Lars have been, is it okay we go a little historically for just a couple of minutes? Because I remember when we met, you were building with the help of coders somewhere in India, or where was it?
Yeah, all over the place.
Local
in Denmark, student workers, people from abroad.
Okay. Trying to build an app.
Spent a lot of money, way too much money on trying to build a GTD app.
Yeah, but now he's building that with vibe coding and AI. So, and it looks promising and interesting, and I'm looking forward to, at some point I want to see it more in detail. You can demo it to me, but what I've seen is interesting. So, but for those of you who now, when he talks about going to talk about agents, what are they doing, and that is the vibe, what he's been vibe coding, and that's cool. So
maybe we'll dive into that at some point, because I think just to put that out there, I think GTDers have a huge advantage going forward, because a lot of what we need is an overview when you start to be a manager of agents, and GTD just gives you that. Another aspect is that I'm playing around with now is I have you have your areas of focus in GTD, areas of focus and accountability. Go back and find that episode if you don't already have them set up. It's a great start to get you up and running with areas of focus and accountability. And these line up nicely, from my perspective, with companies, operating areas of focus departments, if we were a big company. So it's really nice to be able to just feed that in, and let's see how much they can then handle on their own. And again, the clarity that you have as a GTDer, well described, a good overview of areas of focus and accountability, just feeding that in can then make this so much more smooth and work really nicely, and actually free up some time for you to do whatever else you want to do.
Yeah, whatever you find fun, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
So should we move on to the next listener questions? I think we've covered checklists and a lot of other things at the same time. But I hope we answered your question.
Let's do that. And for this next one, I will jump to the last line, because it says, P.S. If you respond to my question on a podcast, feel free to use my full name if you'd like. So let me do that. This is a listener question from, and now I'll do my best, Zachary Stehura. Is my best guess. He sent us an email at the end of last year, I think, saying, hello, Morten and Lars. Thank you for your excellent podcast. I always put on one of your episodes before I do my weekly review. It helps me get in the mood to do GTD. After listening to you guys wax poetic about GT for a few minutes, I'm usually fired up and ready to blast through my weekly review. So good to hear that.
Well
My
done.
question is about someday maybe lists. I am a creative type and high in trait openness. With that comes a constant flood of ideas of things I want to do someday. As you can imagine, this leads to an incredibly long someday maybe list. I've heard you two talk about paring down the someday maybe list in previous episodes, about getting honest with yourself, about whether or not you are ever seriously going to do these things. That has helped me trim some of the fat, but even so, my lists are very long still. Long enough that it's, takes such a long time to scan through the whole thing. And when the list is that long, it doesn't feel particularly useful. I was wondering if you had any ideas on organizing the someday maybe list. Maybe organizing it by areas of focus. For example, putting all the health-related someday maybes together and all the financial someday maybes together, etc. Or maybe organizing it by putting the highest priority items towards the top of the list and the lowest towards the bottom. I've also heard people having a someday maybe list and a project on hold list. This doesn't really work for me because projects on hold seems to imply that I'm committed to do those things eventually, and everything on my someday maybe list are only maybes, nothing I am definitely committed to. Anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Thanks and keep up the good work. Best, Zach.
Okay, Zach, let's dive in. My initial thinking about this is that we talked about, just to give an overview for those of you who haven't heard those episodes before, and it's about, you have desired outcomes lists. These are desired outcomes you would like to, see done. And when you have desired outcomes, those are active. And for not overwhelming yourself with all the active things that you're working on right now, you should maybe trim them down. That is because when you look at your lists and you look at the desired outcomes, if you have a list that you look at, David Allen is very clear on this. He says if your list does not attract you but repel you, you're not doing it right. And the idea here is that if you look at your desired outcomes list and go, oh, I can't do everything here, and you feel, no, I don't want to look at this, it's either because it's too many or because you haven't described the desired outcomes good enough. And good enough is clearly enough. And when you have an overwhelming number of next actions and desired outcomes, the way that you can do this is to use an on hold list to say, I'm going to work on these, but not right now. And keep what's active, for example, for this week, maybe this next week, if that's good for you, and then look at what can wait, because I'm sure if you look at your next actions list and your desired outcomes, you can't move on everything. Maybe you're waiting for something, or there isn't time. You need to wait for the colleague to come back to activate this project. So don't see it when you don't need to, because you will be overwhelmed. So the on hold is for all of these desired outcomes, and next actions should be placed there. You are going to do something about them. They are active, but not right now. And the someday maybe is meant to be, someday I would like to do this, or maybe I want to do this. And for people, and mine used to be long, really long. It's like it was exhausting to look at it. I just spent so much time to look through it, and I got just bad conscience of everything that I was not doing. And I'm fairly sure that Zach might be feeling some of the same emotions. So how to divide that up? That is a very good question. And if you've used this seriously, am I really going to ever do something of this? Look at this as a potential ideas list of something you may want to do someday, or maybe, and kill all the ideas that's just kind of like, if you can, use the seriously, or use what I call your bullshit filter. You have to look at it and say, am I ever going to do this seriously? And what you're left with after that, if you're still overwhelmed, then you might want to categorize them. But my base feeling: be more honest with you and kill more of your babies. In the way that babies is in this the ideas that's on your someday maybe list. It might be too many. I don't know. What is your take on this, Lars?
No, I agree. I thought it was a really nice way to describe it, and absolutely recognize having that long list. I think Zach has probably also heard that from previous episodes, that we really, we have both struggled with this. Not everyone does that. Some people are more good at not putting too many things on those lists, but I've certainly been in that category as well. And for me, it was helpful to have that on hold list for a while. For the purposes of my system right now, I just have the someday maybe list and the active projects list. That is it for me, and that is sufficient right now. But that is again coming back to just being really hard on myself and really saying, okay, no, I only want to put this on the list if I'm actually, a certain part of me, a certain percentage is sure that I'm actually going to move on it. So no, he talks about organizing these in different ways, and we can he comes up with good ideas organizing them by area of focus. I have certainly done that as well, trying to put them in different groups to make it easier to go through. I would say that from that perspective, it was still a long list for me to go through, even though we have them separately. So it's easier to, you don't have to rethink for each of them. You kind of know which space we're in. That certainly makes it easier to go through, but the amount is still the same. So if it helps, great. But otherwise, I would look probably into what helped me was, I think in the level 2 training, where we also talk about this on hold. I would change the review frequency instead of the how it was organized. And that is what I remember helped me until I came to the conclusion where I am now, that I just deleted those. So, they did not take up any mental space anymore, so I just took them away. But that helped me. I had a weekly someday maybe list, I had a monthly someday maybe list, and I had a yearly someday maybe list. And just, moving them to that yearly list just was really helpful, because suddenly I really not at all had any need to see them all on a weekly basis. Today we talk about when you start with GTD, just do it on a monthly basis. And for me, even yearly was sufficient for many of them. So that was perhaps something that you could try out, Zach, and see if that could help you to park some things on that. So the review frequency made it easier to just focus on the ones you actually did need to see on a, let's say, weekly or monthly basis.
One of the things that I'm reminded of now is that a helpful question might be for you to look at each item of your someday maybe list and ask yourself the question, what needs to change in my world for me to be able to do this? At what point in my life, what need to change for me to prioritize this up as something active? And if you can't see that end, it might be, you know what they say about good intentions, the road to hell is paved with it. It might be a good intention, but if you're never going to act on it, it just is drag, and it is clutter, and it drags you down. And if it fills you with joy to see your someday maybes, woohoo, keep them there. But if they don't give you joy, maybe it's time to say goodbye, as Mario Kondo would say. If you don't give you joy, let it go. What do you think, Lars?
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I like that perspective. And you're, I think, coming back full circle with a quote from David, and whether these lists attract or repel you, right? That's really what it comes back to, and especially the someday maybe list, I think, for people, also because of the time where it shows up. So that could perhaps be one other thing to try, is that if you've done, you go through your weekly review and there was some big inboxes, you had a lot on your mind, big mind sweep, long lists, long week, only a limited amount of time, getting pretty tired towards the end, and you don't get to get creative part of the weekly review. you could try and schedule that for another time. It's helpful. I think for me it makes a lot of sense that it's grouped so closely together, because then you just have a good clear picture of what's
Yeah.
happening right now. Can I bring in some more active projects?
Mm.
But perhaps in your case, if there are that many, then maybe have a separate someday maybe review.
Yeah.
That could also be one thing to try out.
Yeah, and one thing that I would like to point out is that Zach, he said he's a creative type. If you look at the Kairos, typical Kairos profile from the creative ones, they are highly associative, and the sequential nature of clarify, organize, and review is something that the creative types have difficulties with. I'm also a high associative person, and I do get very tired when I have to make decisions. It's not easy. It doesn't come easy for me and many of my fellow brethren and sisters in the high associative class. But and that means that at the end of a decision making process, where you take your next actions, you decide them, you review your system. At the end of that, you should get creative by looking at a list that is really long. Maybe your mental energy is spent. Maybe you should, as Lars says, schedule another when you're in the morning next day or in the weekend. What do I know? But it might be a good idea not to do it in one sitting. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, and that would also bring us again back to this list, attract or repel you, because let's say you were to then schedule a weekend review. Are you looking forward to that? Let's say you set aside time Sunday afternoon, you have a good cup of coffee, you can sit down with that someday maybe list and go through it and really get inspired. Or is that not how you feel? Are you like, that coffee, the chair, all that sounds good, the list? Then maybe we need to go back and rethink how we work with it.
I once did something. It was it relieved a lot of energy for me. And I had I remember very clearly. I used back in the day. I used Evernote as my GTD system, which becomes just as they say, Evernote had a tagline. At least before, that was the everything bucket, and it became the everything bucket of things that's actionable, things that's just information. And it's like, ugh. I don't know what is what. Yeah. Am I going to do something on this information, or and what I did, I scrapped everything in my someday maybe and read later list. I felt so good. It was such a relief. So you might want to do just scrap everything and start again and see what shows up, because that might be also a way to make sure that the ideas are both fresh but also something you really want to do something about. Okay, how are we on time now? I'm just thinking. We are 40 minutes.
I think we're fine. Yeah, I think we're fine.
Being in a high associative, I don't have sense of time.
we get excited talking about someday maybe list. Let's jump to the last question that we had planned for today. Zach, hope that was helpful. Last one is from Ivan, our good friend Ivan. He says, "Hi guys, been quite a while since I wrote, but still listening to every episode. Good to hear that, Ivan. I know you've done some episodes in the past about OKRs and GTD, and I'm going to re-listen to those. However, I'm wondering if you have any tactical thoughts on how to integrate the concepts and organize them. I use OmniFocus and keep my horizons of focus in a Word document. I have always felt some friction with the two not being connected, and admittedly being separate does allow for drift in OmniFocus, and I have to revisit my horizons and weed out what I should not be doing. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions on how to better tie OKRs with the higher horizons and connect them all in a trusted system such as OmniFocus. Thanks, and as always, keep up the great work." From Ivan.
Yep. And just for those of you who don't know what an OKR is, and I'm going to give you my best interpretation of this. An objective key result is more or less exactly the same as a desired outcome. But if it is in an OKR that has a long time span, it might be a goal in GTD. So it should be on, the goals in your horizons of focus. So for OKRs to be interpreted into GTD, it should be tied as a desired outcome. It could be like a company has an OKR that you have some part of that's yours, then you can interpret that as a desired outcome in your system. So so that's how I interpret that. But I used to use OmniFocus since version 0.8 or something, and I gave it up after many years, as many of you or some of our listeners know, because I've been talking about that. And I gave it up because it got too complex for me. And I use, as you do, Lars, or you did before, I think, to tie your areas of focus and then nest that into becoming your GTD system. So if I was, let's say, I'm in my family, I'm responsible for our banking and insurance, and then under banking insurance, it will be a project called. It might be, that will birth a project is to renegotiate our insurance agreements, and then next actions tied to that. But my problem with this is that it gets too complicated, because then I have to nest myself down to find the next actions if I want to make sure I'm maintaining an areas of focus correctly. So, Lars, let's take a step back. Can you explain to us what is an area of focus?
Yeah, sure. I can. Let's go for that. So when we go through the horizons of focus in GTD, we start at the bottom, talking about next actions and calendar events. If we zoom out one level more, we talk about the desired outcomes related to OKRs, as we are talking about now. And if we zoom out just a bit more, we talk about the areas of focus and accountability. What are you focused on as an area? What are you accountable for? So this could be a starting point, your job description, an overview of what you are, an analogy that works for me is all the spinning plates. If you ever saw that in a circus or somewhere else, these are the different areas where you have to make sure and maintain that these are handled appropriately. So we typically draw these out as mind maps, with one for personal life, one for work life, and get a good overview of that. And from these, that is where all your actions come from. That is where your projects come from. If they don't line up, then we have something to talk about. So that is the starting point, and that is, I think, what you were referring to when you talked about linking the three lower horizons.
Yeah. And my take on this is that just clarity for those who's listening, this has been beneficial for some of my coaching clients to talk about, is that areas of focus / areas of responsibility, areas / of accountability are the same. Just so areas of something is this. So areas of focus is my personal focus. I want to focus on this because it gives me joy. I like to play. I don't play golf, but let's say I play golf, and that's one of my areas of focus. I want to do more of that, or whatever. My health could be areas of focus for me. Because it's something I need to maintain. And then areas of accountability is what am I accountable for? And that's / responsibility. I gather them together. So accountability / responsibility are the same. But those are the areas that I will be measured on. So it could be finances in the company, could be people, so I'm responsible for 5 people, so it's the names of the 5 are my responsibility, and the idea with the areas of focus / responsibility / accountability is that they give birth to projects, desired outcomes. And the way that I think about this is that they are the mothers. They give birth. And that is, you look at an area of focus, let's say health, and you go, how do I feel about this now? Am I maintaining this area of focus for me in a way that I'm happy with? If not, should it birth a project? So what's my desired outcome for that project? Do I need to train more? How do I get better at maintaining my health? And that could be a project that has a beginning and has an end. It's called a desired outcome in GTD. I don't know. Does it make sense to you? And to talk about it like this? And they don't have to be connected. They can be on as you said, a mind map, or it can be just a basic list of them. And the reason you should have them, by the way, is because if you don't have them, how do you know you're doing a good job? If you don't know what you're measured on, what is your responsibility, how can you know that you're doing a good job? You can't. Sorry.
Yeah. I was talking actually to Catherine about this at the masterclass retreat where we spoke about that. I was mentioning that I used to say, come join us, level one training, get the basics up and running. But more and more, I really encourage people to also go for level 2, ideally level 3, but definitely level 2, just to get this areas of focus and accountability up and running, because it is a significant difference than just having projects and next actions. And projects and next actions are good; they're really good. But that extra level of mind like water, or whatever we want to call it, you have to get that areas of focus and accountability on the map as well. I really think so. So I understand that we cannot teach people everything from GTD in the time frame that we have for these trainings, but I really hope that we can inspire people to just go that one step deeper or higher, if you will, in the horizons to get those areas of focus set up, because that really makes a difference.
And again, look at your systems. So for Ivan, if you look at your horizons of focus and you see your accountability, and they are nested inside OmniFocus, that's quite okay if you feel good about it. If you feel good about this, great. You might not feel good about it in 6 months or a year, I don't know, but as long as you feel good about it, as long as your system and your list are attracting you, continue. But if you feel a little overwhelmed, David Allen's, do you feel a little not repelled? I think it's the word he uses. We also use the skunk as a the very smelly black and white animal that you find in the US. I don't know if I never seen one here, at least. But they smell and that they repel you, or either you're attracted to it. So like a kitten, it could be another, I want to do this. I want to cuddle this. I want to do something about this. It might be the way. But my inner wise Yoda, GTD Yoda tells me, you don't have to have them together. You can separate them, and some people that I know actually do have them on their on a wall, close to where they sit and work every day. So they have them blown up in like A3's mind map, and then they can look at it. How do I feel about this? Am I maintaining all my areas of focus, responsibility, and accountability in a manner that I am happy with? I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I onto something?
That makes a lot of sense. And I think if another take on Ivan's question is that, because I know as an engineer by training, I always want to see the link, or there's a formula, or there's a final answer, and in GTD we certainly recommend that you have a good, clear picture of the future, the horizons of focus document, to where you want to go, so you can sort of use that to align and make sure that you take appropriate next actions in the present, right? And that there is a tendency to then want to line that up. And in the old days when we had the pyramid shape to describe this, you could sort of see this, or a tree that goes all the way towards the top with vision and purpose. And I've seen that a couple of times where people link it, not everything, but some things. One of the participants in the masterclass retreat in Denmark last year had this lined up, used it with the team. Company had goals, his department had goals. The team members had then projects that all supported that goal. Very inspiring for them to see exactly how their emails and calls and meetings, how they actually line up with and support the company goals. So that was really cool. But that happens rarely. And I seem to remember David or Anna Maria or something, someone saying that, that maintaining that structure is a lot of work, like you also just said. So perhaps there are areas in GTD where the most productive thing to do is to spend more time. And now we're coming back to the masterclass retreat again, but you can certainly do this on your own. Having that good, clear picture, doing that solid review, I would say. So having that document, sitting down, looking through that, and then aligning your day-to-day system so you trust that this day-to-day system, in OmniFocus in this case, reflects the longer-term priorities. And then come back a month later, or however frequently you want to do this. But I think there has to be some kind of bigger review, or some kind of review that supports your intuition in the moment, or the weekly reviews, to make sure that you're on track, instead of having to have everything lined up and linked and tagged and getting that set up. That being said, I'm certainly playing around with that in my custom system as well. But I think I'll come back to the same conclusion that Ivan seems to run into, that we have different ways of seeing those maps, if we want to call it that, and they just show up differently, and linking it all up. Let's see, but it's for most people, I think that's how it's best worked with.
One of the things that comes to mind for me is that one of the bigger companies that I'm working with now, they have recognized that if you don't know what you're responsible for, how can you know that you're doing a good job? And also that if you don't have that written down, how can you make sure that there is no gaps or overlaps? So, and they have used a lot of time and energy, and are still using a lot of time and energy to figure that out, and to make sure that there is no gaps, so nothing falls through the cracks, and there is no overlap, so we are not having two people doing the same thing, and I think that is crucial for any company. So if your company if you don't know what you're responsible for, take a step back and write it down, and go to your manager and asking, I think I'm responsible for this. Do you agree? And that might start a conversation where you might want to have, should we map this out maybe, so that we know that everyone in our team, or our department, knows what they're doing and not doing. And this is really strange, but I have seen more than one time when I go into companies when they start doing this mapping out process, someone will hear, "Are you still doing that? We stopped that 2 years ago. Are you still doing it?" and that is well, just for that saved time. For figuring that out, it's well worth the idea. So, but to have it, make sure that you have a good idea of what you are responsible for, because then you can feel good about the things you're doing and not doing, because you can see them. If you know what you have responsibility for, look at them as often as you need to make sure that you make progress on them, and they can be mothers to your projects and birth projects for you. Voila. Okay. Have you covered Ivan's question, you think?
We would probably need to ask Ivan, but I hope so. At least this gave some perspectives on this, and perhaps not the answer that he was hoping for, but hopefully it was helpful, and some things to try out at least.
Yeah. And please, if you feel that we haven't answered your question, or we missed your point or something, just write back. We will address it later, I promise. It might take a few episodes, but we always get back to these listener questions. And I think we've more or less answered all the listener questions we got at some point.
If we missed any, then be sure to send them to us again.
Yeah, I don't think we have, and it can sometimes it comes as a comment, and I don't have notification on YouTube. So if you leave a comment there, I'm just having a checklist every month. I go to see if there's any comments or something, and
No, we have had some people show up in spam that came through the podcast at VitalLearning.dk email address. So that could happen. If that has happened, please try again. Like Morten, I also have a check every month that I go through my spam folder and pick out anything that should not be there.
Okay, cool. Are we at the end of this episode?
I think so. Just the usual reminder when we do these listener questions is to keep those questions coming. This emptied out our list. So no more listener questions until you start sending them in. So please do that whenever they show up. Reflections, questions. Could be very practical, could be more theoretical, abstract, what we want to call it. Whatever you have on your mind. Capture it and
give us something to talk about.
And then the wrap up that I always do is to remind you of the GTD summer camp. That's something we organize every year. We have a new organizing group this year. We are even more international now with both Germany and the US in the organizing group as well. Some really cool ideas coming up, building on the really good 5-year anniversary version that we had last year. So really, really looking forward to that. I just checked my calendar. It is June 13 to 14. That's the weekend. Most people show up on the Friday as well to start with the Friday dinner too. I think it was like 95% tend to show up on Friday and just have a great evening to start us off with and get to hang out and meet all the nice people that show up. If you want to learn more about this, then gtdsummercamp.com is the place to go and book your ticket. I think just over half is now already sold. So they're moving quickly this year. So you see, Morten, I'm doing my best to do the marketing and and get people to join us. David and Catherine have also bought their tickets. David, Catherine, and their 2 dogs. So this is even level up from last year. This is a level up. We now get to meet the dogs as well. Hope to see many of you there as well. If you haven't heard about it before, it's this non-profit event that we just do to bring together all of the nice GTDers from around the world. So if you wanted to hang out with them and us, then be sure to go in there and sign up and come by Denmark in June. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah. And it is really the at cost. It costs what it costs for the hotel, and we don't get paid. Everybody travel on their. Catherine and David travel on their own dime. They will take the car from Amsterdam
road trip.
Road trip, and they will pay for their hotel themselves just to hang out with you guys and us. Of course, it's going to be fun. So be there or be square. Or something, I don't know what the cool kid says. What the cool kid says nowadays.
And the other reminder that I always provide is to invite you to drop by VitalLearning.eu, have a look at the company website. You can find your way to the different countries where we operate. You can find out more information about what we do, what we offer, of course, relating to GTD, but also to crucial learning products like Crucial Conversations and Crucial Influence. So be sure to go there, sign up for the newsletter. You can book meetings with us, whatever you need. VitalLearning.eu is the place to go. If you are in a country that is not where we operate, then we recommend you go to cruciallearning.com to find your local partners.
Yes, and gettingthingsdone.com if Crucial Learning is not covering your country. If you want coaching, for example, in the US, it will be, and Canada, it will be gtdfocus.com for find the information about coaching in the US and Canada. And I have nothing else, but to just if you want to give us a rating on your, somewhere. Yeah, I haven't been very good at this, but as the cool kids do, subscribe and like and everything. But it is satisfying for us that you guys like what we do, and if you do, please leave a good review if you want to, where you can do a like for the episodes. If you go to your podcast client and it has a rating system, we have a very good rating everywhere we are, and we are very happy for that. And I think that we are doing something correct, and we are serving you as our listeners well. And if you are happy with us, let us know by like and subscribe or gives a rating. And if you want to support us even further, you can do that by connecting with us on, send an invitation at LinkedIn. We are both on LinkedIn. Lars Rotskil Hendriksen, you will see it on the screen, and it's in the link in the show notes as well, and Morten Røvik and as well in on LinkedIn. If you don't even, you can follow us if you want, but if you want to connect, you can do that. Just drop a line GTD so we understand where you come from. And if you see we post something that you like, click like, comment if you feel like it, because it helps us spread the word. And both Lars and I are doing this as a living, yes, but at the same time we love what GTD are doing for people, and that we can live of this means we are more efficient in spreading the word of what GTD can do for you. We know that GTD gives you better days if you take it seriously, so help us spread the word. And I will take us out. Are we there now?
Let's do that. I think so.
Yeah, okay. And until next time, people, stay safe and stay productive. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.